Hey, everybody, welcome to the Y Project 911 presented by the For Paul Foundation. Today is episode number 9 with Chief Gene Landers from Orange Township Fire in rural Indiana. The chief has been the chief of the fire department for 3 years. He's known around the country for his social media posts called Bitter to Brass. Go ahead and introduce yourself, brother. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Again, my name's Gene, Chief Landers. We're up here in Northeast Indiana, very rural department. We're running 400 calls a year, and we're progressive and we're getting better. And I myself am just as imperfect as the entire system. And so every single day I meet fine folks like Mickey and learn a little bit more about the job that I thought I knew that I didn't. So thanks again. And I appreciate this.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you on. Of course, I do what I always do, and I vet people. And Candy Ashby had nothing but good things to say about you.
That woman, I tell you, she is, if I had a secondary spine, that woman is sure
She
enough
would
to
be
be
it,
the
right?
one.
She would be all of
Yeah.
ours.
Yeah.
So, but you're the fire chief. So, what's it like being a fire chief? What's your experience in the fire service? How did you get into the fire service? I mean, I know a little bit that you were in it from your parents since you were a kid, but how'd you make your way up to the chief?
So, um, that's the unique thing about the Bitter to Brass. I grew up in a firehouse my entire life, and so everything that you can imagine in just 10 years occurred 3 times over for me. Different people, different relationships, different conversations, and what I noticed is over the course of my 30 years around the firehouse, 3 different firehouses, is that everybody treats each other like shit when they want something they want. To me, that's never been good enough. I've always, from a little kid growing up, started off young, looking at the fire trucks take off. I know what they're doing, right? They're going out for the people. And that was my vision. That's what I saw. They're going out to help. They're going out to help continuously. But then when they turned back and they came back to the firehouse, it was so weird because they'd have a group over here whispering. And I was the guy that wanted to be in everybody's face. So I was learning, and I just heard some good things and bad things. And I've seen divorces. I've seen death. When I say death, I mean in the fire service, not out in the field. But, and I've seen a lot of people leave, good people leave, and we never took a hold of them. About 2021 and 22, I started to stand my ground. I started speaking. I started saying what I felt. 15, 18, I didn't know how to do that. And so I had some really good civilian style constituents that were able to mold me into somebody that I didn't want to be, but I was able to have conversations with people that I normally don't have conversations with. And they were able to give me an understanding of how to tactfully handle conflict and people who disagree with you. And in 2022, I was asked if I would be interested in managing an organization and sending it off. Matter of fact, I was told, you do exactly what this community needs. And whatever it is, let me know and we'll make sure it happens. And that road wasn't easy. Coming from one firehouse to another, growing up in the firehouse, everybody thought I was entitled. I was actually enlightened. I've never once been treated like I was entitled, I can tell you that. But the way the firehouses are today, I want to be the guy that makes it easier for the guy that's just trying to get to 5 years. That's what I want to do, is get through that 5 years, realize it's not that bad. It's actually one of the most rewarding jobs that you could ever have, and make the best of it, and get these guys to 20 years, and if not 30, and then blend that in together. So I did that. I was offered this position, and it was, like I said, it was a challenging road, but there is an outstanding, phenomenal group of people here that we've lost some. They've tipped off the scales, but nobody here's chasing them. We want good people. We want great people. And so getting out the door, training, becoming a unified group of, essentially a family, and calling out the bullshit. You come into our house, you want to be part of our family. We're not going to act that way. You can go right back outside. There's no standing in the corner. There's there's no paddle coming. Those days are over, but you can go ahead and leave. It's worked out for us. We come across some roads, but the main focus is in the community, for the community, and that has nothing to do with our egos or how we feel about ourselves or what our image is. It's our results. And so I've had the opportunity to do that, but I've also had a great staff to keep me moving in the right direction, and hopefully understand the next generation that's coming in. I hate using the word young firefighters because I was that way too, right? I was a young firefighter. You just said I'm pretty young. I don't feel young. But the goal has been to pass it on and keep it going. It's not mine to own, so I don't need to destroy it just because I got to give it up someday.
Yeah,
It's
well,
been great.
you
It's
bring
been
up a lot of
wonderful.
good points. So, like, You didn't grow up in that firehouse. You grew up in a firehouse, but it wasn't that one. And then when you come in, we have in my department a lot of legacy hires. We've hired them over the years. Some of them are really good, some of them are pretty average, and truthfully. And, you know, in some sense, they're looked at by the other people that they go in camp with as being entitled. I've had some other ones approach me, feel like I have to work harder because I don't have anybody in the fire service. And there's good and bad in both, right? There's good and bad in both. If you grew
Yep.
up in the fire service, you know what to expect. If you haven't, then you feel like you have to work hard. But
Right.
as long as they respect the fact that they're a solid firefighter, then it's a good thing. Either way.
I was never handed anything. I can
Yeah.
tell you that. I was
Yeah.
never handed anything. I was given an opportunity at an older age, and I took advantage of it. I was the chief's son.
Right.
Like, if anybody had a target on their back, it was me
Right.
because they thought I got whatever I want. I knew better not to go ask mom or dad at the time of their administration if I could do something. But the reality of it is we weren't doing much. So wasn't a lot to be rewarded, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but you know what? You knew better. And I taught in paramedic school. I taught in fire academies, and sometimes the chief's kids are the worst. And then the chiefs call you and they're like, "Hey, man, why are you fail my kid?" I'm like, "I didn't fail anybody. They failed themselves. It's not my fault they
Yeah.
can't do the work."
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Yeah,
So
and I wasn't perfect, man. I never got
yeah,
into drugs. I never got into alcohol at a young age. Mom worked for the sheriff's department as a dispatcher for it's still there today, and my wife is into it now as well, 10 years deep, and I feel for my kids, man. They're not gonna be able to like, I mean, I didn't get to, right? Like, I
right.
I was kind of a bat down the hatches kinda kid, and so I wasn't out there in the community. I wasn't out there in the public like a lot of folks these days were at a young age. So I came in as kind of like and I don't mean this in a bad way, but people judge homeschool kids, right? Because they're secluded from everyday life, but they're just unique. They're different. And that goes along with what I mean about treating people is we got to treat everybody the same and stop treating people like shit. And the fire service will be better.
Right. People are the main centric of everything.
That's it.
And no matter what industry you're in, my best friend is a construction vice president. He goes all over the country and does lectures and stuff. And we were going through the same exact problems in complete different interests in industries with people
Human
problems.
race.
With,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then a lot of your things are when I'm reading them, I'm reading put people first, put your people
Yeah.
first, make it more about them than it is about you, whether it's your workers, your coworkers, your, community members, whatever. Put people first is what I'm reading when I read your stuff. So
Yeah.
I love it. And that's why I gave you a call. And it's an honor to have you on. Thank you for coming again. But, you guys run 400 calls a year and you are volunteer or combination or kind of a mixture of both, right? So,
Yes, sir.
I come from a smaller career department. It's 5 stations, about 163 people, and we're considered small. People look at us like, "Oh, you guys only run 15,000 calls a year." But there's a lot of the same challenges. But I want you to talk a little bit about being in a combination small department versus a large department. Have you had any experiences with large departments or no career
So I got
departments?
an eye opener when in 2020 I applied for I have a part-time gig that I run, and I'm gonna be really honest. When I first started here as the fire chief, I didn't work there much, and they gave me an opportunity to still stay there. And so I try to pick up a day a month. It's not much, but they're running 700 calls a year, and they're in an industrial area. They've got a lot of residential area in their territory, and I got my eyes opened when I went there. Here we weren't doing training, and I mean here at this firehouse, and even the firehouse that I had originated from. Our training was just bare minimal, and the calls were kind of extreme. I mean, they're no different. People's emergencies don't change styles just because they live in a different community. And so when I went over there, they were more frequent, more intense, but we were there quicker. And I was paid to get in the rig and go to the call, and that was all new to me. Like, people weren't dying as fast or as often, fires weren't getting as big, like things weren't progressing like they were back at home. And so in that process, I was offered that chief's position, and I took a lot of that, not duplicated 100%, but I took a lot of the drive and what I agreed with and brought it here, laid it out on the table in front of the command staff. And so what do you guys think about this? In 2022, this organization missed over 70 calls
Mm,
in its community. Nobody responded. And when I say nobody, I mean nobody that the taxpayers, the community was paying responded. It was from another department. north, south, east, or west. And that was a problem with me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want that in my hometown, and I won't expect anybody in this community to receive the same care. So in 2023, we did some revamping modifications once my administration started. But it's funny, the people in the fire service are the challenge, but the people in the community are the bigger challenge because they don't know, because we're not having conversations with those people. We're just getting in the rig, we're going to work, we come back. And when we get asked about it at the gas station, we don't stop and have that conversation. We say, yep, thank you. They thank you for your service, right? And I'm a big advocate to stop and say, "Thanks for noticing, and where do you live, and what are your interests in the fire service? You ever been to the firehouse? You want to come down, come take a look. We got staffing there 7 to 3, Monday through Saturday. Come down, love to have you." We don't usually do that. We don't find ourselves doing that, and so that was the challenge for me. Was the community. The firemen were part of the community, or the community issue, but like I said, they tipped off the scale. They're gone. We've got a good group of people, but now we're finally getting to push that onto the community. Hey, we know you're confused. We know that this is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for us. We love new tools and brand new trucks, but we've got great equipment. Now we need to focus on the staffing,
Right.
and it's time to pull that trigger. And so getting through that, I was 33, I think, at the time. And of course that was against me. But I'm gonna be straight with you. If it wasn't for my people here taking a little bit of that information that I was giving them and that energy and doing that in the community, I think we'd still be struggling. And I think everybody in the community would be struggling.
Well, I think that's a
Whether it was
lost point on a lot of people. We get hung up on the fact, well, in our department, we get hung up on the fact that we're running a lot of calls. We are doing a lot of training. Some of it is, computer training, and it's
yeah,
mind numbing. But we're doing a lot of training. We're doing a lot of this. We're doing a lot. And then they have demos, and then they have pre-fire plans that are for your ISO rating, like we were talking about earlier. And you have all this stuff. It gets lost on the importance of being good to the community, because at the end of the day, you're there to serve and protect the community, right?
that's it.
And when you want something, who's going to give it to you? The community. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
if you're treating them like crap, you're not going to get what you want. I know that
Yeah.
I was a captain at 19, which is the busiest firehouse in our city. And I used to go to Publix, and this old lady used to look at me every day and scowl at me. I don't know why. She scowled at me every day. And every day I would say, "Good morning, hope you're having a great day." And I'd walk by and, get my lunch. One day the lady looked at me and she stopped me and she said, "You really love your job." I go, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "You are always smiling. Every time I see you, you are always smiling." And then for 20 years, she would say hi to me all the time and be like, "Hey, I hope you're having a good day. Hey, Cap." And then I made battalion chief and she was like, "I haven't seen you in a while. Oh my God, you're a chief." Gave me a hug. Those are important interactions,
Yep. For
People,
sure.
people neglect that fact that, especially, do you guys do medical?
Yeah.
Do you
A lot.
transport? Do you do transports?
We don't. We don't. We have a local company, non-for-profit organization that runs for us.
Gotcha. So you do medicals and then they transport. But
Yep.
we call our rescues, our med units are called rescues in South Florida. And they're constantly out in the community, you know? And sometimes I was there when I was a lieutenant. Sometimes they're upset because they're running and running and running and running. And, you're
Yeah.
eating cold steak and melted ice cream and didn't get to watch the movie or whatever the case was. But they're the most obvious faces in the community.
Yeah.
They're the biggest difference makers in the community,
Yeah. They definitely paint a portrait for the face of the department.
Yeah. So if your people are smiling and happy and like being where they are, which is your goal as a chief, right? How do I make them happy and want to be here and retain them?
Uh, if I want everybody to be happy, then I'm expecting a perfect world. So I need to be prepared for somebody not to be happy. So what I shoot for is I want everyone to have more pride and acknowledge themselves better the next day and the day after that. And hopefully, if they carry themselves higher, that'll rub off onto the next person.
It's okay to have adult conversations. I don't feel like as firefighters, first responders, as people anymore, we have those adult conversations.
Right.
Never going to be happy with people 100% of the time. But if you have an adult conversation and you say, "Hey, that made me mad," you
Yeah,
can talk
yeah.
about it.
That's the biggest thing is we and I run with that in a couple of my presentations is we have to start having conversations with people we don't normally have conversations with. Just because you're pissed off at somebody doesn't mean you can't take just a minute. All that hatred and energy that you're boiling inside, you're just wasting time. Take a minute, take a break, whether that's a week long, a month long, 5 years long. Catch up with somebody. Be like, "Hey, dude, remember the last time we had beef? I want to fix that. And if it doesn't fix it, that's great, but I want to understand what I did wrong. And if you can go out and understand what you did wrong, like I said, if you're not willing to change your mind, you're not willing to change the world.
Yeah. And what happens when we don't have those adult conversations though?
Chaos.
Chaos. What happens is people make their own perspective.
Yeah.
Well,
False narrative.
they did this. They make a false narrative. You know what I mean? And you'd be amazed. I said with Candy, you'd be amazed what firefighters can come up with. I mean,
Manipulation to the T.
they will come back and tell you a story that you would be like, wow, you should have wrote The Wizard of Oz, bro. You're like, where'd you come up with this? You know? So it's definitely important to have those adult conversations,
Yep.
and put people first is the overwhelming goal, you know? Overwhelming goal. Unfortunately, you see people move up the ladder and they don't put people first.
That was one of the biggest challenges for me is I was never allowed to be a captain, officer, lieutenant, any type of decision making because of my parents' footprints, right?
Right.
And so it was kind of funny. It was almost like a disciplinary action towards me. That's how I felt at a younger age. I was bitter. And that's the bitter to brass, right? Like I was able to get out of that shadow, get out of those clouds, and move to something different and utilize what good people gave me, people I didn't agree with in their time in the late 90s and early 2000s. I think that it was appropriate. But we're past that. We passed the exit ramp for staffing and training, and that was past 30 years ago. And now it's catching up again. We're running out of fuel. So when I became a chief, well, he doesn't know what he's doing. It's been 3 years, and I'm telling you, we're running top. There's some imperfections, but we're running on top of the table, and we're not tipping off. So back to that entitled and enlightened, I was just enlightened. I didn't need to have somebody in here to tell me how to do my job and what I was doing right or doing wrong. I'd grab this guy right here, and I'd call the chief, one of the staff chiefs of Evansville. I'd call Muncie. I'd call 2, 3 counties away and say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. People I would have never imagined that I would talk to. And I pick up the phone and I ask him questions. And that was what was able to get us through and I guess get us some traction and get moving. Because a lot of the negative, manipulative characters that were more interested in spending time and treating everybody like shit, they ran away and they wanted to tell everybody else, well, he doesn't know what he's doing, or they don't know what they're doing, or they're going to fail. Well, carry on. We're just going to keep moving. And that's what we have to focus on today is just because someone talks trash about you, listen, garbage goes out every week and it's just waiting to be picked up. Don't worry about it. It's fine. We gotta realize that we're human and we are some of the nastiest things on earth. I mean, it's the way
Yeah.
it is. We're animals, right? Like we're mammals. We have to
Yeah.
anticipate some kind of man eat man idea.
Well, we're the worst. We're even worse as firemen because there's not a lot of beta personalities in the fire department.
Right.
99.9% of the people in a fire service are alpha personalities.
Sure.
And then everybody's fighting to get the top of that dog cage,
Yeah.
you know? Not fighting, but metaphorically fighting to get to the top of that dog cage, to get to the top of that food chain, whether it's through merit. And some people, unfortunately, don't do merit. They do the other stuff. They talk crap and they're not productive, you know? They make other people look bad to make themselves look good.
Deal with that. I deal with that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of, having some merit behind you and saying, okay, I'm the best. I don't really care what you think about me. That's always been my goal. It didn't get me that far. It only got me to as far as I could test, but it is what it is. So people first, we talked about the 10% with Candy Ashby. You sound like you've kind of weeding out some of those 10%ers and keeping the people that are quality, right?
Yeah. You're either a shit bag or you're a bag of flowers, and flowers look a lot better than shit. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's the way it has to be. We can't sit around and we can't tolerate it. It cannot be tolerated. And there's a way to, like, you have a couple opportunities to admit that you're wrong. You have a couple opportunities to admit that you're not seeing it the right way, but you only get a couple. And once you tip off the scale, like I said earlier, nobody's coming to your doorstep saying, please come back. We want you. It's gone now.
Agreed. Now, did you have any of those 10%ers come back at all or no? They just, the ones that were gone, they left.
No, they're gone.
Because I find like,
And I'm the biggest turd pile there ever was, by the way.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. We'll get some comments, I'm sure.
And that the downside of growing up in the fire service is my heart is 5 times the size of my chest. And so I pour a lot of that into people. Dude, I didn't tell you the story, but in 1991, I was given a chance. I was given up for adoption, and none of this would have happened if it wasn't for somebody else kicking me off the curb. And so when I say that you have a choice, You have the ability to dictate your direction. I had a choice by somebody removing me from their life, removing me from their circle. Maybe that wasn't the best place, the best environment for me to grow. Maybe I need to leave. Okay. Maybe it's not what I'm ready for yet. Maybe I'm not ready to admit that I'm wrong. Maybe I want to be a bully. Well, go find another hole to dig and try that and see how that works for you. And I'm sure you're going to get the same result until you stop digging holes.
Yeah. That's a pretty powerful point, really. That really is a pretty powerful point, you know? I was just saying, like, since you changed the culture, sounds like you've changed the culture of your fire department through your leadership. The culture has been now one of training and one of staffing and one of doing the right thing and community involvement. If any of them would be like around, and probably if they came back, they'd be like, oh, wow, this is pretty good. This is a lot better than it used to be. Because I've seen the firefighter go from a crap bag, as you say, to a busy station with a good culture, and all of a sudden they're a superstar, you know?
Yeah, that's what I love. I love the wins. I love the losers that decide they want to win.
Yeah. That happens. I mean, and it happens vice versa too. You have somebody that was a superstar that son gets a bad attitude and goes to a slow house, and the whole house is complaining, and next thing you know, they're garbage.
Yeah. And all we got to do is stop and have a conversation. Listen, your
Yeah.
shit's not acceptable. Let's get this under the wrap right now and let's move on. We love you. You're a brother, you're a sister. Let's take care of this right now. And let's just, if it's not going to work, see you later. But we love you. You got a place here.
In your situation, you have a lot better chance of saying see you later. In our situation, we have unions and
Oh,
contracts and all
sure,
kinds of
sure.
stuff,
Yeah,
and we're
absolutely.
paid, and you can't just be like, okay, bye. I wish
And I'm not
sometimes.
insinuating that we would just terminate, but we
No,
would
I
have a
understand.
conversation with, are you really, are we, is this not going to work? Like,
Right.
are we,
Yeah.
what do we need to do? And I talk about that in station talk about people don't go to their administrators or their officers and say, I'm struggling with this. They just keep running on with it. And it comes to locker talk and hallway talk and bar talk and bullshit talk. And when we could just, I have a couch in my office. That's where we have good conversations. And we try to turn uncomfortable into comfortable. So the next time you have that problem, you go to your officers, you come to me and you say, hey, can we talk? Can we just get this over with? Yeah.
Yeah, it should, right? Those are those adult conversations that we're talking
Yep.
about that need to happen. And if they don't happen, then you have the bar talk and you have the station talk. And next thing you know, the whole station's mad at you. And
Yep.
all it took was for you as an officer, which is a very important point. All it took was for you as an officer to sit down and say, okay, I noticed something's going on here. Sit down. What's going on? Let's have a difficult conversation. Do I want to have that conversation? No, I'd rather go work out. But let's go sit down and have this conversation right now, you know? And then they're like, wow, I didn't really realize that was the case. And it's done. And then everybody's back to work versus ignoring it. And now you have a whole conflagration,
Right
you
on.
know? Then now you have a whole thing that should have never happened for no
Waste,
reason, but
wasted energy.
a lot of wasted energy. And I don't know how young, old your members of your department are, but down here in South Florida, I just retired 2 weeks ago, hence the beard. And my partner's
Congratulations, by the
retiring.
way.
My partner, the other battalion chief's retiring Monday, and then the next one retires 3 weeks after that. So we're going to have all new battalion chiefs, all new officers, all new firefighters, you know, and I find with the newer officers, they're not having these difficult conversations and they need to. How about you? How about you in your department?
So there's this thing in this era below me. When I say below me, I mean the age. Oh, it's not in my business. It's none of my business. I don't care what's going on. I don't need to know. I don't need to know. Well, when they're not showing up to shift and you have to cover the shift, stop bitching that you're covering their shift because you chose not to have that conversation. They're not here. They're out of service because you haven't had a conversation with them. And so getting to know your people, getting to know their expectations as human beings, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, hey, Chris needs 20 minutes a day. He's got to read his Bible. Okay, Chris, take care of that, man. And then we all understand that. Or somebody just needs to go talk to their kid every day for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's embrace that. Let's give them their expectations. Now, I think there's some expectations we can't meet, right? Like pay is locked. There's just different things that have obstacles. But us as humans are not that big of an obstacle if we just sit down and talk about it. But when you're here and you have the opportunity to grab a hold of them and say, "Hey, I love you, dude," or "What can I do for you?" And so
Yeah.
we had that culture that didn't care and they just left as soon as the call was over. We didn't have paid staffing a few years back, but Now we do, and the volunteers come in with the paid staff. They collaborate, they conversate. I got one guy he's telling everybody he got fired from his volunteer job for the way he was driving his personal vehicle. So it's been a thing around here that they've been shooting the breeze about back and forth, and they're not making fun of him. They're just having conversations, and he's upset about it, and they're making him feel good about it. Like, stop taking people's downsides and trying to flip them over and make them worse than what they already are.
Yeah, firefighters are very good at that, right?
Yeah.
Firefighters are very good. Once you find out something that bothers somebody, they zero in on it,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
bad.
We're all
It's
firefighters,
bad.
man. And that's the thing. When you're an officer, you're a chief, you're whatever you are. At the end of the day, you're a firefighter.
Oh yeah, I've had some situations where they walk in the office and I'm looking at them. I'm like, oh, that was really bad, and I'm just trying not to laugh because I'm like, I could picture it happening. I'm like, oh, sons of,
Sorry to get off
you know.
topic there.
No, it's good. It's good. I want to talk about your leadership, right? Because you're doing this bitter to brass, and you're going and writing these things. And what is your leadership style? What's your idea of leadership, and how does it relate not only to the fire service but all first responders? This is a why project of all first responders, right? And we all need leadership. You're going to take this over. This is how I would like you to lead this department. What would you tell them?
First things first is relativity. The moment you're in this office and you forget where you started, you forget where you came from, you might as well forget the job and move on. Because these people are coming into your office for problems that you've experienced. That's the glorious part about leadership is you're supposed to lead by example. And if you have no relativity to what you're doing, you cannot carry anything on. I cannot have someone come into my office and be upset about something and then me pretend that they're absolutely unacceptably behaving or it's just some bizarre phenomenon. Dude, this is a fire service. It is a circle. And everything that they've encountered and everything they've experienced, I have experienced too. Might be a couple different things that I haven't gotten myself into just based off of common sense, but
Right.
still, relativity is my leadership go-to because you cannot lead anybody if you've never been in that situation. If you've never been in that situation, pick up the phone and find somebody that has. And the number one thing is like I told you, I was given an opportunity 1991. So I thought it was acceptable if two people could adopt somebody they never knew, then I can sit down and relax and have conversations with people I've never met and get a better understanding of them. And that's what my next um, predecessor would need to do is be willing to have conversations with people and understand that they're not perfect. Neither are you as an individual. Instead of jumping and making the conversation quick and being negative, shut the office door. Give them 5 more extra minutes. Make sure they're focused on training. Make sure they're keeping the community safe and make sure they have the best interest and not only just themselves, but the mission.
Yeah, I think you brought up a very good point. You've been there since you were young. You've experienced most of the things that people are going to go through. Not all of them, but most of the things. You've run calls, you've done that. Down here in South Florida, sometimes we get, and I'm sure it's all over the country, but we get people that didn't sit in the seats and are now chiefs. But your point is find somebody that has done it and rely on the people who have done it is huge. That's a great point because if you're going to do that and you're going to expect to be a solid leader and a solid chief, and you haven't sat in the seat of a captain or a battalion chief, rely on the people that have, right? Be humble,
Yeah.
Sometimes, like we said, people think that, you're there, you're coming for their job or you're doing this. I'm not coming for anybody's job. I just want to make the department and the fire service better, but they feel threatened. So you have to have that humility, right?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. I think that if we were going to take away something from that is if you get into that position, you haven't sat in that seat, just be humble.
Yeah.
Just be humble. Have those tough conversations. Put people first. You communicate a lot with your guys and girls down on the floor.
Every day.
Yeah, that's huge. I don't feel like we have that a lot in the fire service anymore.
If the purpose to sit down and have a conversation is to be punitive right off the bat, this is not going to work. I love to sit down and not even sit down. I'll be in the hallway and be like, what was that on the radio, dude? What? So it just balanced back and forth. And at the end of the day, we just had decision making. We did a decision making session here Monday night. And it was funny because there was I'm just going to tell a brief story, but there was this single story residential. and there was fire coming out of the Alpha side. They saw the picture for 10 seconds and I clicked to the question. The question was, what was the nearest exposure color, or what was the
All right.
color of the nearest exposure? And they wrote their answers down, but then I let them conversate about it before we went back to the slide, and they learned how to disagree with each other. But
All
all of
right.
that disagreeing and all the agreeing that was going on, I clicked back to the photo and every one of them was wrong.
I love it.
So it was phenomenal. It was great, but they enjoyed it.
I love it. I would have told you that the nearest exposure was the kitchen, but I teach that in my class all the time. I'm like, okay, why is exposure second in RECVOS, right? I'm like, rescue and then exposures? They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, you're trying to keep it to the smallest box possible. So if you have a bedroom fire, your exposures are the living room, the
Right.
kitchen, the bathroom,
Right. Yeah.
not necessarily the house next door.
Right.
People get lost in that
I love that.
when I
That's
teach
a
them
great,
tactics.
that's a
They're
great
like,
thought
oh,
process.
wow, But yeah, putting people first, having the tough conversations, and being humble, those are the things that make good officers. And, it sounds like you're doing a great job up there, Chief. I'd like to come up there and see your department one day.
Sure thing.
So bitter to brass. Let's talk about bitter to brass. What is it? You said you're kind of new to social media. Unfortunately, that's the day and age that we live in, right? You have to make a social media push sometimes. And whether you do it on purpose or not, this Y project just fell into my lap, sort of. But here we are, So talk about your social media, talk about bitter to brass, and what do you want to achieve with it?
So I don't know what I want to achieve with it, other than just letting others know that they're not alone. Those that have experienced what I've experienced, there's a way to process it. There's a way to sit back at the end of the day and be like, it's not that bad. Like, none of this bullshit fits on your tombstone. So stop trying to dial it in and clean it up. Just keep going. And so the bitter to brass is the bitter mentality that I had growing up in the fire service. Once I became an active firefighter in 2009 and up until 2017, I mean, I didn't even care about my own father. I mean, he was pissing me off. And I turned to brass long before I was offered this position. And you can make brass decisions as a firefighter. Let's say it's year 2 for you, and the people that are with you, whether it's volunteer or combination, they got hired 6 months ago. They're young. You can be brass no matter your age, your rank, whoever you are, as long as it's solid and you're confident with your decisions. But you've got to step up and make those decisions. And sitting back, hesitating is just as much as bitter. And so take that leap. I know you're not the chief or whoever you are. You decide to make a decision. It's okay to make decisions. And that's what it's about. Not being able to make decisions. Like I said, I was the chief's kid, but I was the first one at the firehouse. I was on the first due engine. I was pulling the line, making entry. Things were evolving. Decisions were made, but I wasn't allowed to make those decisions. Comments would come out like, that is not your place. Well, my place is to go back home. And if you don't want to have anything to do with that, then I'm going to make that decision. And so I am currently writing a book. It's been about a year process. I think October it'll be a year. And it's called Bitter to Brass, Built Under Ash. And it's just about the shitty world of the fire service and how you can change it by just making brass decisions, not brass decisions, clean, polished decisions in the absence of leadership. If your captain's gone, the decision still needs to be made. And so that's the goal of Bitter to Brass. That's the goal of me, not to have all these firemen turn against their fire chiefs. Please get that message correct. I can sit in a group of people and tell them, your chief may be an idiot, but you need to get to learn who he is or learn who your officers are so that you can start building your own mechanism of leadership to push out onto the floor when they're gone. Something has to be done. That's the mission. And when I built the Bitter to Brass Facebook page, it was just an outlet for me to share content and information. And I had no intentions. And the most recent post, I've had so much outreach for. If we would attack fire like we attack our people, we'd never lose a building. That has blown up. And I just wrote that down like a year ago. And here we are. I don't know if I've succeeded to get the message out. I don't know that if I have more, I know I have more work to do, but I just want to make sure that we can start fighting attitudes as hard as we fight fires. That's really
Huge.
what I'm out to do.
That's huge. That's what we say all the time, right? Let's take care of each other. Let's be productive. Chief Walt Lewis from Orlando Fire Department, now Orlando Airport, he says, is it true? Is it productive? And would you want your family to hear you saying it? If not, don't say those stupid things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right on.
Like, take care of each other. Be productive. I love it. I love it. Obviously, your Facebook posts are making a difference. I noticed it, and that's why I gave you a call. I'm excited about the book. I'll have to talk to you afterwards about how to write a book, because apparently I'm the only one in my Tenacity Saves Lives group that hasn't written a book. This is the Why Project 911. It's presented by the For Paul Foundation, and the mission is to support, honor, and educate all first responders. We give away about 15 annual scholarships a year to future first responders at the Heroes Dinner, which is this Saturday in Weston, which obviously you won't be able to make, but it's the Why Project 911 for all first responders. And go ahead and give us a why. Like, what is a why that we can take away from you as a chief, as somebody that grew up in the fire service, and as somebody that is now hitting the bitter to brass stuff?
So my why has always been be better for them, and that's it. If I can be better for them in return, I'm going to become a better person. And for me, is I was given better opportunities, but I always thought it was for them and not for me. So I do what I do to give other people opportunities to be better for themselves. Because at the end of the day, this is not my fire department. This is not my fire service. This is not my reins. I'm here temporarily, just like every one of us, and so I'm going to do it the best I can. I'm going to own it based off of my historical views from the past. I think the world will be safer if we treat people better. And that obviously involves the fire service. What a place to start
Yeah.
being better to people is in the fire service.
Yeah, I competed in the firefighter challenge, and I made a prop on the hose thing, and I borrowed something from an Apopka chief, Nate Strum, and it said, "I'm not here for me, I'm here for we, and we are here for them."
Right on.
And I love that. I
Yes.
love that. That is a huge why right there. I'm honored to have you on, man. I'm looking forward to see what you do in the future. I think you said you're going to a fire chiefs conference, hopefully here coming up soon.
Yeah. I
And you're
don't know
writing a
what that's
book.
about.
You got the Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Besides the Facebook, what else do you have? Do you have any Instagram, TikTok, anything like that?
I have the Bitter to Brass Instagram. I've got the TikTok. Chief Landers is my Facebook page. I decided not to hide behind my business entity because it's just straight up me. And I don't mean that foul against anybody that has a business or any type of corporation that they have established. It's just for me, I don't think I was able to create something and then expect it to grab. I had to use me as a person for people to know who was sharing that information and that data. So essentially, I was looking for some kind of vetted interaction for the people that were reading my material. And I'll be very honest with you, everything that I post, I run by my firemen.
Nice.
I don't ever surprise them with any of it. I give them a heads up. Hey,
Nice.
this is coming out. This isn't directed to you. This is directed to the world.
I love it. That's a great, I mean, that's leadership right there. Hey guys, this is what I'm doing, and agree with it, disagree with it. Let's talk about it. What do you guys think? That's wonderful.
It's a great conversation piece.
That is a good why right there. That's a good why that all leaders can take away from this conversation for sure. Again, I'm honored to have you on, Chief. You got any final thoughts you'd like to share with us?
I just keep your head above water, and when you got oxygen, breathe while you can and make the best of it.
Well, I'm looking forward to your next post for sure. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in person, and good luck at the fire conference. And you guys have a great day. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.